Words and paper did not seem real enough to me. I had to make a confession of faith in stone. That was the beginning of the tower, the house which I built for myself at Bollingen. At first I did not plan a proper house, but merely a kind of primitive one-story dwelling. It was to be a round structure with a hearth in the center and bunks along the walls. Unquote. In 1923, Jung realized that despite having a residence in Kusnacht, he was missing something, namely a dwelling place for his personality number 2. In the loneliness of the upper Lake Zurich, he bought some formerly monastic land in Bollingen and built there an archaic tower, at first with his own hands. Philemonis Sacrum Fausti Penitentia, the shrine of Philemon, Faust's expiation. This is the motto on the tower. It refers to the drama Faust by Wolfgang Goethe. This is a story, out of greed, Dr. Faust had burned down the hut of Philemon and Baucis, and the old couple died in the fire. With the construction of his tower, Jung thought to atone for the outrage and restore the hut of Philemon, which was also a temple. Quote, I altered the plan even during the first stages of building, for I felt it was too primitive. I realized it would have to be a regular 2-story house, not a mere hut crouched on the ground. So in 1923, the first round house was built, and when it was finished, I saw that it had become a suitable dwelling tower. I have done without electricity and tend the fireplace and the stove myself. Evenings, I light the old lamps. There is no running water, and I pump the water from the well. I chop the wood and I cook the food. These simple acts make man simple. And how difficult is it to be simple? Unquote. On the ground floor in the tower there is only one room, the kitchen, and on top of a narrow stair 3 tiny bedrooms are added. The meals are cooked over a fire, the water has to be pumped, and the light comes from oil lamps. A modest place to withdraw. Jung soon felt that his tower was incomplete and added a hall. In contrast to his house in Kusnacht, where he placed the tower in front of the house, he now enlarged the tower with a house to live in. But this was again not the final form for his refuge. Step by step, he added another tower to create a place of spiritual concentration and an enclosed court toward the lake. Quote, I suddenly realized that the small central section which crouched so low, so hidden, was myself. I could no longer hide myself behind the maternal and the spiritual towers. So I added an upper story to this section, which represents myself, or my ego personality. I built the house in sections, always following the concrete needs of the moment. It might also be said that I built it in a kind of dream. only afterward I see how all the parts fitted together, and that a meaningful form had resulted, a symbol of psychic wholeness. Without my earth, my work would not have been possible. Unquote. To be capable of carrying out his scientific work, CG Jung needed the simple life and timelessness of his tower. I returned once more to the Red Book. Its basic report was written at the beginning of the First World War. The book itself was created between 1913 and 1928. The tower started in 1923, so there was only a relatively short time of overlapping.
A moment, a little snapshot with your grandfather.
Yes, well, this is really, I wrote it in that book because it was the beginning of everything. So that means when I was a schoolboy, and I was a big, not a big, I was a little boy, and I was in the house and was waiting for my grandparents. And the grandparents, they came from the upper story down into the hall, the entrance hall. And I was staying there and waiting. And coming down, the grandparents, they were speaking together, and they said, well, it's a burden to have such a big house, and you know, there's always something to do, and yes. And so I listened to that, and when they came down, I told them, now listen, if really one day you don't need any longer this house, well, I will take it. I will.
Now you have it.
And well, as I said, the dining room. If I show it to people, I say this is the stomach, and the other is the head, of course, the library, and I think for Jung it was very important not only to think, but to do all the other things. Therefore, he was working on different materials, but he was also cooking. So in Bollingen, he would not let someone else do the cooking. He let people wash the dishes. That he would do. But the cooking he did himself, and he was a beautiful cook. And poor cook who did a nasty meal. He could be so angry, and he says such a good stuff and such a nasty meal you made. So he would be very angry with them. So this would be kind of shadow, if you want. Yes.
I think Jung managed in his lifetime to offend many, many people. Andreas has said that he was very direct and without sort of all the diplomatic niceties that we're all accustomed to nowadays in professional dialogue. Jung was very direct. I've thought that actually he had something that one could call an offensive personality disorder. Because he offended so many people in so many different ways. But the dining room is also, in addition to place eating, of course, it's a place of socialization. It's a place where you have guests, where you have parties, or your family gathers. And this side of Jung's personality is not featured at all in Memories, Dreams, Reflections. It's so much an account of his inner life. But what about his social life? Did he have people in for dinner? Did they have guests a lot?
Yes, what I know is that when he stopped his work, so then it was over. That means he was not the one to go in the evenings and searching in the evenings, but when it was time for his meal, so he had his meal, and then it was finished. Then he was playing. They had games, or they had with the children, and he was, when he was young, he was very sportive. So he went with swimming and sailing and riding and all kind of things. So he was not this. And I think for me, for myself, he was strictly working in this hour. He's doing this, and he did anything else, but it was this time reserved for this, and he zog es durch. Also,
he really followed through. Yeah.
Yes, he was really very strict. So this was for the secretary, this was for this patient, and this was for.
Now it's dinner time.
Then it's dinner time. Then it's everything is over. Yes. And of course, and he read. Krimis, is that what krimis?
Mysteries.
Mystery stories.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, mysteries.
Mystery stories.
Mysteries, yeah.
Detective story.
Detective stories.
Detective
yeah.
stories, and he liked them. And some people said, "What? He did that?" And of course, it was with this. It was a way of everything. This kept him
a kind
away
of
and
escape.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, as I recall, Freud visited that house, didn't he?
Yes. But one thing that Bollingen, it somehow, if I go there, it's still the same. I felt when I was a boy and when Jung was still alive. So, because the things are still on its place, not all of them, and of course each one lives it in a different way. Somehow the spirit is still for me, for my impression, is still there. And it's as in the library, it was renewed well now, somehow a little bit. But we have the feeling that you still smell the tobacco.
Tobacco.
You don't, do you know he died in 61, and we think it's still, and so it's not only the tobacco, it's more than only the tobacco.
The smell of the odor of the spirit is
yes.